Cosmic Confluence podcast, where we explore the intersections of spirit, science, and soul. I'm your host Sana, and listeners, today's episode, it isn't just about intimacy, it's about initiation. We are diving into the sacred sexuality, not the version you're bombarded with on screens, but the kind that remembers you back to yourself, the kind that softens shame and expands you into cosmic connection. And to guide us, we have a luminous guest with us whose presence has transformed the lives of thousands. Listeners, meet Satya Lila. She has spent over 30 years teaching sacred sexuality, leading workshops from the US to Japan, and offering over 15,000 one on one sessions. Her work, it reminds us that really good sex isn't just physical, it is energetic, soulful, and deeply, deeply spiritual. So, if you have ever felt like your sexuality was something to fix, to hide, or figure out, maybe it's time to explore what it means to honor it, to respect it. So, let's quickly begin. And Satyalila, welcome to the show. And as always, it is an honor to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, beautiful, beautiful. Satyalila, you have worked with thousands of people. Um, Before we try to understand about sacredness of sexuality and sex, what do you think is the most common misconception around this today?
Around sacred sexuality?
Yes.
Um, well, I think the most common misconception is that there's no way that sexuality could be sacred. It's been relegated to this uh, um, obsessive, lusty, addictive kind of attitude in the widespread culture. Not everybody is like that, but many people are. The the repression of sexuality leads to an obsession with it that is not healthy and can go into addiction. And it's just a very convoluted, twisted attitude to something that, if we lived in a healthy culture, would be celebrated and honored as a pathway to the divine.
Yeah. Goodness, I know many cultures where anything around sexuality and sex is completely worlds apart, poles apart from divine or faith. I mean, these two worlds, it cannot never ever mingle with each other. So
Yes.
that's and do you think that it is because it's rooted in cultural shame, or are we afraid of our own power?
Well, I actually think that it's wrapped up in religion and religion in the authoritarian sense. I think that for example, the Catholic Church is very patriarchal and very top-down authority, and it's one of the biggest focuses of sexual shame that I've encountered in the people that I work with, is people who were raised Catholic, and I think it's about power. If you can make someone ashamed of their sexuality, then they lose their power because it is a source of power. But to disconnect from that source leaves people not in their power and more easily dominated. And I think that that's why the religious teachings of sexuality as shameful came into effect. It was a device for creating power over other people.
Mm. That really makes sense, Satya Lila.
Mm, mhm,
It can be very um, controversial, or a lot of to and fro's can be there, but somehow it makes sense to me as well. And now you say that sex is energetic, not just physical, which I also believe could be a generational thing or something else. But to me, it's not mechanical. It's not
mhm.
just for lust. It is something where our minds, our hearts, our souls, they are connected. We say that, we have become one, something like that.
Yes.
That's school in the fence. So, can you help us understand what that really means? Like, especially for someone who has only experienced or looked at sexuality through the lens of, performance or pleasure.
Mhm. Um, well, let me tell a story from my own experience that
Yeah.
really illustrates the power of sexual energy and pleasure as a catalyst for opening up to the divine energies. I was making love with my partner, and I was kind of lying back, receiving his touch, receiving his pleasuring,
Mhm.
and I I had an impulse to imagine my yoni, which is a
Mhm.
Sanskrit word for vulva
Yeah.
or vagina.
Mm.
I had an impulse to imagine my yoni as a cosmic portal, and I went into a vision. Um, I saw a black field, a black background, and a outline of a shape of a yoni in shining gold light,
Mhm.
with rays of golden light radiating out from it. And then in the next moment, I just um, I kind of went whoosh and flipped into a a union, a state of I went into the light. It's very hard to find words for this. The yogis call it samadhi. Um, Zen people call it satori. Um,
Mhm.
it's it's a union with all that is, with infinite expanse of love and light. It was ecstatic. It was like floating in love and well-being and beauty and um, expanding so that I dissolved into those like floating clouds of light that I was experiencing. And it was a glimpse of enlightenment, and, those glimpses show us what's there, and, I didn't stay in it. It was a momentary, um, glimpse, but those glimpses are really valuable because as they come more and more frequently, we start believing that there is another reality besides this three-dimensional material world that we get so caught up in. We forget that there is a bigger, incredibly vast and beautiful and wise and loving um, plane of existence that it permeates all 3D is like a layer over that. And
Mm.
the sexual energy, is what gave me the catalyst to have that experience, and I'm so grateful for it, and I've had other experiences like that, many of them. That one in particular was I remember it so well because it was the first time, but I've
Mm.
had many other experiences like that through, honoring and acknowledging this energy as sacred and honoring my partner and as uh, um, a co-creator of this kind of experience. We're creating through our love and connection and through our devotion to both of us to this as being a spiritual path. We can support each other in having experiences like that more and more frequently until it becomes the reality.
Wow. That is out of the world. It's really cosmic. And
Yes.
and would you say that it's something that can be um, cultivated, or does it have to arise spontaneously like it did for you?
Oh, I think there's cultivation is definitely part of it. There's a tantric master named Osho. He no longer is living, but he had a teaching that he said that moments like that I just described are accidents, happy accidents, and we can't. They're just accidents. We can't make them happen, but we can through meditation practices and consciousness. We can make ourselves more accident prone.
Mm.
And I love that. I love that. It's just like this little joke. Where let's be accident prone. Let's cultivate the field. Cultivate in us the openness to these happy accidents where um, we drop into that kind of experience.
Mm. That is
Because
an
yeah, meditation, yoga, dancing, body embodied practices where you feel your body from the inside. All those things are ways to cultivate that accident prone state of being.
Hmm. Wow. So it's like, encountering and letting yourself kind of, vulnerable, yet not
Mhm.
weak, to embrace.
Yes. Yes, it is very vulnerable. And um, it's really only really possible to do if you trust your partner. And
Uh,
that sometimes takes a while to build trust, to know that you're safe, that you'll be honored, and that you'll be cared for. And that comes with time and with like my partner, I can completely trust him that he won't touch me anywhere I am not ready to be touched. I trust that he's tuned in enough so that, he can tell what I want, and we've been together long enough that he knows how to read my signals, and, that's a process. That's something I teach people, a lot is how to build that trust because it doesn't come automatically. Uh it takes repeated experiences of, "Oh, yes, he didn't invade me. Oh, yes, he still didn't invade me. Oh, yes, he still didn't invade me. Maybe I could trust him." You know? It 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 just happens with, building it over time, and then when that trust is developed, there's such surrender that is possible because you don't have to protect yourself. You know that you're safe. And protection sets up a little bit of a barrier between the full surrender. There's like a little part of you that's holding back and monitoring. Am I safe? Am I going to be invaded? Especially as women, because that happens even in very subtle ways to most women in their lives. Um, Men not understanding the rhythm and the different pace that a woman takes, especially when lovers are first starting out and trying to figure each other out. Um,
mm,
yeah, so that's another thing I've taught couples a lot is just how to honor the timing and the pacing and how to touch in a way that builds desire instead of moves in too quickly and makes people shut down.
I it's really good that you mentioned about this because um, consent and that understanding of consent space, the respect and honoring each other. I think it is so necessary. Not only from a sacredness perspective, but from a practical perspective as well. Um, if I'm ready to explore, something as vulnerable and powerful and very kind of uh, individual, like sexuality, and with my partner, then it should be reciprocated. And that's the kind
Mhm.
of caveat in there, because skeptics will say that that it kind of sacred sexuality, it risks spiritualizing what should remain like grounded, human, something like messy, flawed, because there are a lot of misconceptions revolving around sexuality.
Yes, yes. Yes, and I would like to say you mentioned, grounded, and I think that is actually a really important part of it too, and I understand what you're saying about, messy and, I understand what you're trying to get, what trying to say, and, um, sacred sexuality is all of it. It's, it's all the energy centers from the root chakra all the way up to the crown. It's
Mm.
involving them all. It's not just from the heart up and to, into the upper realms of um, connecting with spirit. The more all of my being comes to that experience, the more um, full-bodied and full it's like the full spectrum of energy. So, it's all honored. It's all important, and the consent, like you mentioned, is really vital.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. And you have done this work for decades, Satarina. And what's changed in the way people relate to sacred sexuality? I mean, are we evolving? Are we becoming regressing, or just kind of renaming the same wounds or longings?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both, and it's hard for me to, I know I've evolved a lot. And so what I'm teaching now is not the same as what I was teaching when I first started 30 years ago. I I've learned so much and I've evolved so much that my what I teach is very different and I'm attracting very different people. But I don't know if it's universally everybody's evolving or if it's just I've evolved and so I'm attracting people who are, you know, ready for what I have to offer now. But my own evolution during these years is that I started with much more of a sexy, physical, playful kind of attitude, and that's still there in me. But I have brought in more and more of the spiritual realms as I've learned to connect with them. I'm much more familiar with those realms now than I was when I 30 years ago when I was first teaching. So I couldn't teach about them the way I do now because I hadn't experienced it yet. So in my perspective, the it's gotten more spiritually focused, but that may be me and not, it's hard for me to know what the world is doing. I just know what's in front of me. So, but that's been my evolution is to keep bringing in more and more of the spiritual connection without losing the sexy, playful, um, fun aspects because that's spiritual too. Uh,
Mm.
I had a teacher who used to say, if you want to be enlightened, enlighten up. So I think playfulness is really an important part of an enlightenment path, not taking it too seriously.
That's true. That's quite practical, yet it's somehow very spiritual as well. Satya Lila. Great. And if our listeners they would like to connect with you, what would be the best way?
Well, you can go to my website, and that's in the program notes. There's several things that I offer there. There's several free gifts that give you ways to start experimenting with a sacred sexual encounter, which can be either with a partner or with yourself. On my website, you look for a page called Free Stuff, and it's got several giveaways. A writing that describes how to set up a space for a sacred sexual encounter, and a few guided audio meditations that guide you into connecting more deeply and intimately with a partner or with yourself. You can do it looking into a mirror. And then, if you want to explore it more deeply, I offer a free sexual communion gateway session. And in that session, it's a telephone session. And I work on Zoom, so I'm available all over the place. And in that session, I will help you explore your challenges about sexuality and uh, find out what you've tried and how it worked, and help you come up with a vision of what you'd like instead, and give you some recommendations of how to get started. So, if you're serious about um, ex- exploring more deeply, that's a way to get started with me.
Beautiful. I'll make sure to have all the links and details in the show notes for our listeners. And thank you so much, Satya, for walking with us through this sacred doorway. This was absolutely wonderful, beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to be here. I love the way you draw out great stories, and you're such a wonderful host. Thank you
Wow,
for
thank you.
having me here.
Thank you. Thank you. And few listeners, let's just take a breath because what Satya Leela shared today isn't just information, it is initiation. It is a gentle reminder that our bodies are temples, our desires are maps, and our pleasure can be prayer. So, whether you are on the edge of awakening or still untangling shame, may this conversation plant a seed of remembrance, of reverence, of realignment. With that, thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of Cosmic Confluence. Until then, I'm your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.